Have you ever wondered why the ones who see the most often stand the farthest from the crowd? It's strange, isn't it? You'd think that seeing clearly would bring you closer to others, that understanding more would help you connect more deeply. But instead, it builds distance, subtle, quiet, invisible distance. You start noticing things that others don't, the contradictions hidden in casual conversations, the masks people wear without realizing, the way everyone seems to play, along with rules no one remembers agreeing to. You laugh when they laugh, you nod when they speak, but inside, you're somewhere else entirely. Half in the room, half outside of it. It's like living behind glass, close enough to touch, but never quite able to reach. And you begin to realize something no one tells you. Intelligence doesn't just open your eyes, it separates you. See, people think intelligence is about knowing things, about being clever or analytical or fast with words. But true intelligence, it's not a performance, it's a perception. It's seeing through the layers, noticing the space between words, the silence between thoughts, the truth that hides beneath the noise. And once you start seeing, you can't unsee. You can't go back to pretending. You can't unlearn awareness. And that's where the cost begins. Because most people don't want to see. Not really. They want comfort. They want certainty. They want the warmth of shared illusions, even if those illusions are quietly killing them. But you were born to notice. You see the cracks in the story. You hear the tremor in the laughter. You feel the unspoken fear that hums beneath polite conversation. And when you try to speak of it, to share what you've seen, people pull away. Not because you're wrong, but because you're right. And your truth makes their illusion uncomfortable. That's the hidden cost of intelligence. It's not arrogance, it's not superiority, it's exile. It's being too awake in a world that still wants to dream. You learn to quiet yourself, to speak in smaller doses, to soften the sharp edges of your honesty so you can fit into conversations that don't require thought. You start saying less than you mean, smiling when you don't feel it, pretending to belong, because belonging feels better than being right. And then one day you notice that you've become fluent in the language of pretending. You laugh on cue. You nod at nonsense. You survive by being half alive. And that realization hits you like a slow moving wave. You've been shrinking yourself just to be understood by those who never wanted to understand. But here's the strange thing, this loneliness, this ache you carry, it's not punishment. It's the side effect of perception, the price of awareness, the tax you pay for truth. Because the more deeply you see into life, the less able you are to play the surface games. You stop chasing approval. You stop worshiping noise. You start valuing stillness, depth, authenticity. And most people don't live there. They can't. It's too quiet, too confronting, too real. The wise, the truly wise, they walk alone not because they reject others, but because they no longer need to be surrounded to feel whole. They no longer need constant noise to feel alive. Their company becomes their own consciousness, their companionship, their own clarity. They sit in silence, not out of sadness, but out of understanding. They see that loneliness is not the absence of people, it's the absence of illusion. And once illusion dissolves, what remains is truth. Raw, unfiltered, sometimes unbearable truth, but truth nonetheless. The irony is, as you grow wiser, your world becomes quieter. Not because it empties, but because the noise no longer satisfies. The conversations that once felt alive now feel mechanical. The jokes that once made you laugh now feel rehearsed. You start craving something rare, honesty, real, unguarded, uncomfortable honesty. And that's hard to find. Most people would rather be liked than real. They'd rather fit in than wake up. And so the wise end up walking alone, not because they want to, but because they must. But there's something sacred about that solitude. When the crowd disappears, so do the expectations. You stop performing. You stop seeking. You stop apologizing for your depth. You start breathing again, slowly, deeply, fully. And in that stillness, you begin to hear something new, yourself. Not the version you edited for others, but the quiet, unfiltered voice that's been waiting underneath all along. That's the beginning of wisdom. Not knowing, but listening. Not gathering more, but shedding what isn't true. You start to see that solitude isn't the opposite of connection. It's the foundation of it. Because when you're no longer afraid of being alone, you're no longer afraid of being honest. And when you can be honest, you can finally connect. Not through pretense, but through presence. That's the shift from trying to be seen to simply being. Because when you are fully here, you realize you don't have to reach for connection. It arises naturally, quietly, like breath. You start to notice the way light falls across a wall, the way silence hums between passing cars, the way your thoughts move like wind through leaves. And you begin to understand where you were never really alone. You were just too distracted to feel the connection that was always there. You see, there's a strange thing that happens when you stop chasing belonging. You start belonging to everything, not to people, not to places, but to life itself. The wise don't belong to crowds, they belong to existence. They find friendship in solitude, beauty in stillness, truth in the quiet moments everyone else scrolls past. When you become present enough, the smallest things become extraordinary. A sip of water feels like a ceremony. A breeze feels like a conversation. You start realizing the universe has always been speaking to you. You were just talking too loudly to hear it. Presence doesn't mean withdrawal. It's not isolation in a cave or silence in a forest, though those help. It's being fully alive where you are. It's feeling the pulse of existence in the middle of traffic, hearing truth in the chaos of everyday life, seeing the divine in the mundane. That's the quiet rebellion of the wise. They stop searching for sacred spaces and make every space sacred by being fully there. But presence demands a price too. It strips away distraction and with it, comfort. Because when you're fully here, you can no longer hide behind noise. You start to feel everything: the weight of the world, the ache of others, the quiet suffering buried in laughter. And that can be overwhelming, because to be truly aware is to be tender, to see through the armor, to recognize the pain beneath performance, and to still say, yes, I will stay, I will feel this. That's courage. Not the absence of pain, but the refusal to numb it. You see, the intelligent mind tries to understand the world, but the awakened heart, it learns to feel it. And wisdom lives somewhere between those two, between thought and tenderness, between clarity and compassion, between knowing and simply being. That's why the wise often seem calm. It's not that they don't care, it's that they care so much they've had to learn how to breathe through it. They don't run from the ache of awareness. They walk with it. They hold it. They make peace with the fact that understanding life deeply means feeling it deeply too. And maybe that's what presence really is: the willingness to feel everything and still remain open. To stay unguarded, even when you know how easily the world wounds. To keep your heart soft, even when your mind sees how cruel things can be. Because the alternative is numbness. And numbness is not safety, it's slow death. So the wise keep choosing presence again and again, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Because they've realized something: pain is not the enemy of peace. Avoidance is. And when you stop avoiding, life starts flowing again. not as a story to control, but as an experience to witness. You begin to see that intelligence isn't about mastery, it's about surrender. It's not about figuring it all out, but allowing it to unfold. You stop trying to make life make sense, and you start letting it make you. You stop reaching for answers and start listening for them. You stop demanding clarity and start trusting timing. You stop running and you start arriving, here, now, always. And in this arrival, something remarkable happens. The loneliness changes shape. It stops feeling like exile and starts feeling like sanctuary. You begin to cherish your solitude, not as emptiness, but as space. Space to think, to feel, to remember who you are when no one's watching. Solitude becomes a garden where your mind can rest, where your soul can speak freely again. And in that garden, you begin to grow. Not upward, but inward. Not louder, but truer. You start meeting yourself at deeper and deeper layers. The you beneath your roles, the you beneath your thoughts, the you that doesn't need to impress or explain, just to exist. And maybe that's the secret wisdom of walking alone. You stop searching for people who understand you and start understanding yourself. You stop craving recognition and start recognizing your own presence. You stop needing the world to echo you because you finally learned how to listen to your own voice. That's when the world begins to shift. Not because it's changed, but because you have. The same streets, the same faces, the same conversations, but now you meet them with new eyes. Eyes that no longer judge, ears that no longer strain, a heart that no longer hides. You realize you were never supposed to fit into the world's rhythm. You were supposed to hear your own. And so you move differently, you speak slower, you listen deeper. Not just to words, but to what breathes beneath them. You start hearing the pauses between thoughts, the silence beneath sound, the stillness that holds everything together. And slowly you realize that silence was never empty. It was speaking to you all along. You were just too loud to hear it. When the noise of the world fades, the voice of truth becomes audible. It doesn't shout. It whispers. It doesn't tell you what to do. It simply reminds you of what you already know. It speaks through intuition, through subtle knowing, through the gentle pull of something that feels right but can't be explained. That's how wisdom moves. Quietly, without demand, without announcement. It doesn't need to prove itself. It simply is. In this space, thinking softens. You stop wrestling with life like it's a problem to solve and start treating it like a mystery to experience. You begin to trust that not everything has to be understood to be meaningful. You start sensing that intelligence isn't the final form of understanding. Consciousness is. And consciousness doesn't dissect life, it participates in it. When you reach that space, loneliness transforms. Again, it's no longer about being apart. It's about being aligned. Aligned with something greater than the self, something that doesn't need labels or logic. You start to feel connected, not to people necessarily, but to everything. The wind, the rhythm of footsteps, the pulse of existence itself. This is what the wise discover. Solitude isn't separation, it's communion. Because when you are truly alone, when your mind grows still and your heart opens, you realize you are never separate from anything at all. You are the tree and the air and the breath between both. You are the thought and the thinker, the silence and the sound, the watcher and the watched. And that's when creativity begins, not as effort, but as overflow. Creation doesn't come from striving. It comes from stillness, so full it has no choice but to express itself. The poet writes, the artist paints, the thinker speaks, not to be seen, but because truth demands form. And through them, life remembers itself. This is the quiet purpose of solitude. It refines you into a vessel. It clears the static so something vast can move through you. It turns the wise from seekers into channels, from thinkers into witnesses, from lonely souls into mirrors for the infinite. And once you've tasted that, you stop fearing aloneness because you realize, well, it's not loneliness, it's intimacy with everything. You begin to see that every moment of silence is not absence, but invitation, an invitation to meet the present without agenda, to touch the world without needing to grasp it, to be part of the music, not the musician. And when you live like that, when your awareness becomes that open, life stops feeling like something happening to you and starts feeling like something happening through you. You are no longer the observer at a distance. You are the dance itself. The wise walk alone, yes, but not apart. They walk with everything. Their steps are in rhythm with existence. Their solitude hums with life. Their silence carries 1,000 unspoken prayers. They stopped asking for understanding and started embodying it. They've stopped chasing purpose and started becoming it. They've stopped reaching for meaning and started radiating it. That's the quiet revolution. Not changing the world by force, but transforming it by presence. Because presence, real presence, changes everything it touches. When you look at someone and truly see them, they soften. When you listen and truly hear, they open. When you live and truly exist, the world bends subtly around that awareness, like light around gravity. That's the power of stillness. It doesn't shout, it reshapes. It doesn't fight, it harmonizes. The wise don't conquer, they align. They don't preach, they embody. They don't try to fix the world. They become the kind of presence that makes the world remember itself. And maybe that's the ultimate cost and the ultimate gift of intelligence. It takes you apart so you can finally see what you've always been. It isolates you so you can hear what the crowd drowns out. It breaks you open so that awareness can flow through the cracks. You learn that solitude was never meant to wound you. It was meant to reveal you. Because when the noise fades and the masks fall and the crowds disperse, what's left is the only thing that's ever been real. The quiet knowing that you are life, looking back at itself. So you keep walking, not to escape the world, but to see it more clearly. Not to be alone, but to be whole. You keep walking until every step feels like home. And even then, you listen deeper, because the silence always has more to say.